Okay, before I start for real with my presentation, I would like to read out a short translated part of the German Constitution to you. Men and women have equal rights. Nobody can be disadvantaged or be favored because of his gender. And whether this equality, which is fixed by law, can be also guaranteed when it comes to job and career is the question I would like to answer today in my presentation, which I structured in the historical background, the current situation, and the measures to improve equality. Yeah, and the topic is gender equality at work. So, we know that in primeval societies like the Stone Age, men and women were equated. Of course, there existed gender-specific role allocations, but the suppression of women to be subordinated to men began when the customs of Greeks and Romans spread over the world. And this thinking that women are less valuable than men stuck in head of people throughout history. But in times of enlightenment and during the French Revolution, more and more women were calling for gender equality and equality of educational opportunity, because back then it was nearly impossible for a woman to get a proper education and live a self-determined life. But in 1893, finally the first high school classes were created, but only since 1999 all women in Germany were allowed to study. But by the way, just the fact that they were allowed to doesn't mean that everyone was happy with it back then. But still, when the German Constitution passed in 1949, the equal rights of the genders were established for the first time. And nevertheless, during that period, women still needed the permission of their husbands when they want to work. So if a man didn't want his wife to work, he could just terminate her employment against her will. And this situation didn't really change until the first reform of martial and family law in 1976. But is there really a 100% equality? That is what I would like to answer in my next point. The current situation. Unfortunately, the answer is no. The legal situation of women increased a lot during the past decades, but anyway, especially in case of job and career, there are still a lot of disparities. Women do have the same qualifications, they do the same job, but they earn less. On average, 22% less than their male colleagues. That makes Germany one of the leading countries when it comes to wage disparity. In jobs which are highly paid, the differences are the biggest. So as you can see in this table, the bigger the ability group is, the higher the ability group is, the bigger are the wage gaps. And based on this new census, the so-called Equal Pay Day has been initiated. And the EPD is an international day of action to point out the existing gender wage gap between men and women. And it marks symbolically or calculatively that period a woman would have to work longer after the turn of the year to get an average salary of men. And in Germany, the EPD is on the 23rd of March, also in 2013, which means that women do have to work almost 3 months longer. When it comes to leading positions, in companies, you can see the differences even more clearly. According to a study of the IG Metall Germany in 2011, the share of 200 leading enterprises which don't have any women in their executive committees was 88%. And the interesting thing about this is that about 3/4 of the working population who are so-called mini-jobber, meaning that they earning 450 euros or less per month, are women. That makes 3.2 million overall. Now there's the question, why? Why is there so big nuisances regarding this topic? Well, wage agreements hasn't been making a distinction between genders since the 1940s, so there shouldn't be any problems then. That is true, many men say. Women might earn less money, but they don't earn less because they're female. They just choose the wrong jobs. So someone who is social worker instead of engineer should not complain about not getting such a big paycheck. But another explanation is that women often working part-time, so it's nothing but clear that they're getting less. But it's also true that a lot of studies consider these facts. And they all come to this same conclusion that at least 1/3 of the so-called gender wage gap can't be explained with these arguments. The real problem is that women often don't even get a chance to come in higher wage brackets. You see, 10% less women than men said that they got advanced before in their company. And as I said before, also in leading positions, women are underrepresented. The reasons given for that are there are 2 less qualified women for the highly paid jobs. But that also isn't true. If you look, for example, at the human resources department in firms, you see that they are mainly constituted of female employees, but in the executive chairs of the departments, nearly only men are sitting. So what the measures are to change the situation, or if there are any measures to change the situation, I would like to present in the next part of my presentation. Measures to improve equality. Because the corridors of power are still a male domain, the decision who should be promoted is also mostly made by men. And they often find other men more capable for jobs than females. And that's why proportions of women in several political committees or in parts of the civil service were established. And that might be a good idea to get more women into the leaderships of firms, but it doesn't really iron out the whole problem. Because it is true that more and more women are the principal breadwinners in couple households nowadays, but it's still a lot more mothers than fathers who take, for example, parental leave when they got a baby. So, according to a study, 38% of the interviewed women said that the family leave had a negative impact on their career. So, yes, as long as the wives are still the ones who are mainly in charge for child care and household, and as long as the possibilities in Germany to combine family and career are still that bad as they are in the moment. I mean, we do have childcare subsidy instead of enough kitas. We do have 24-hour availability policies in firms instead of flexible working hours. As long as these nuisances aren't fixed, the women will be the one to suffer the most from it. Thereby, we could all profit from better resolutions regarding this topic. Whether there really exists a final solution regarding gender equality at work might be very disputable, of course. But one thing is very clear. Equal work deserves equal pay. And for that, I thank you for your attention.